Okay, what we're going to work on today, 1991 Cadillac Deville, sedan Deville, and the problem is the heater core. Now, this will be, I'm making this video, but the first time I just changed this thing out 6 months ago. I got a heater core from Advance Auto. It was like 45 bucks. And a few days ago it started smelling and gets steamy inside. It's winter here now, it's December, and don't know how well you can see that, but it puked out on the floor last night. So now I'm sure I have a leak. So anyway, it looks like the new heater core gave up the ghost. So what I'm going to have to do here is go in, hopefully you can see all this. There's an underneath here, I'm going to be taking off that. I got to take the glove box out and get into the heater core. So I'll pause the video, start tearing into stuff, and we'll see how it goes. So I expect it to take about an hour and a half, so we'll see. Hang tight, tune back. Take the glove box out. So there's a screw here, there's one here, here, there's two up top. So you gotta have a little short stubby Phillips to get these out. So I'll remove this and then pull out the glove box. Got to get it completely out of there. I just leave all my junk in there. Big deal. Once the glove box comes out, right up top here, you've got a little couple connectors for the trunk release button. Now it also originally had a light bulb that went in there, and last time I took this apart, that light bulb the switch came apart, so I just disconnected it and said to heck with the light. Next, underneath here, you've got about 5 screws to take this bottom cowl down. They're 9/32 head size. So when you screw those back in, make sure don't screw them too tight because they will strip out pretty easy. Anyway, once inside here, not real easy to see, but where that light's shining right now, that's what they call the programmer. Okay, so when you take that programmer out, that's what sets the arm there, whether you want air conditioning or heating. Okay, so that's the damper door. Okay, so we'll be taking that apart there to get to the heater core. So I'll start tearing into this. Okay, right there, got to remove that torque screw. It's a T15. That's the top of this programmer. And also up on top of this programmer where the arm is, there was a cap, a plastic top that it just popped right off. And also I have my arm loose. You'll kind of notice on my arm I have like a little electrical fitting there that connector broke, and I just come up with something to make it work. I gotta keep this car running for 2.5 more years. I will have owned it. I've owned it 27.5 years. I gotta keep it for 2.5 more years so I can get it paid off. So I'll have her for 30, I hope. Underneath the programmer, I'm gonna say down underneath the dash, there's another Torx 15. So when you take that screw out and this screw out, then you'll be able to disconnect the power, which the power connector is, kind of get this hose in the way here, but the power connector is right back here, and then you'll get the programmer out. Up underneath here of this programmer is where the pneumatic hoses go for the vacuum to control different damper doors and stuff. So you need to get a nut driver. In the middle of that there's a nut, and you take out that nut, and then that'll release these vacuum hoses. This thing's kind of a pain to get to, and this one I put silicone grease on it, so I hope it comes back apart nicely. But you got to be careful that you don't break it. Okay, I got the nut. This is in my nut driver. Like I say, that was a 9/32. And then these hoses, you know, here again, here was the plug, the electric plug that come out of the programmer. Now I need to remove these hoses and hopefully not break anything, because that's what works everything. Have to stop the camera. That off. Here's what it looks like. So it the top hose, or the kind of a empty hose, goes on top. So anyway, it's kind of a chore. The best is to take a straight blade screwdriver and pry up above and pry it out of there, because it kind of even gets stuck. Like I say, if you pull on the hoses, you might break them, and then you're out of luck. Now that you have the hoses loose, you've got the power loose, you just kind of take this puppy, work it back and forth. It will come out. So there is the programmer. Okay. So here's the arm up above. Here was the electrical connector, and here's this hose where the vacuum hoses manifold goes. All right, and there's where the nut screwed on there to hold it. And of course, it was that hole there, and this hole down below is where it was mounted, the two screws. So the programmer's out now, and the next thing to do is, I don't remember. Somehow this half, you can see where that case is split right there, that comes apart. So now this particular car too, this is like an add-on security system. Well, it wasn't really so much the security system, it was the door locks. This car, when it was new, I actually bought it new, it didn't have door locks on it, so they added this. This was made by GM, or sold by GM, but it was an aftermarket. So anyway, let me pause. Another thing I've got to do is to take off this cover here that's over the fuses, and down in here is where the hoses are to be removed for the heater core. I don't know if you can see them very well. There's two hoses right there. They're not too bad to get to. So anyway, I'll take those off, and then that way I'll have the antifreeze away from it. Okay, there's a better picture of those two hose clamps down there. So that's what we're going after. Like I say, when you take that cover off, they're fairly easy to get to. Obviously it's a light in the way of it, but just a long straight screwdriver, like 1/4 inch wide. So by, say, 6 inches long, 8 inches. Okay, my goodness, the hardest part of this job has been getting these hoses off. So, I mean, the clamp, it was easy to get to. It's just the hoses, I had to cut them. So I hope they're going to be long enough to put them back. Now, once you get that programmer out, you get the heater core undone, you're going to take off this half of this. You can see here, really hard to see. There's where one of the screws was in, up top here. And then down underneath, there was another one that is right there. So hopefully you can see that. I can get this. So I took the screws out already. But now I think that will break loose. It'll open up. Yeah, I don't know if you can see this or not. Sorry for the lousy video. But what's starting to happen here now is this case is going to split, if I remember right, you can get this out without, might be something else down there, but now you can start to see the coil. So anyway, this half comes off. You don't have to take that computer out there. You don't have to take this computer out here. So there's two computers. One's a powertrain and the other is a body computer. They do not have to come out. So I'll go underneath and look to see if there's anything else holding it. I had to pull there's a wing, or kind of a wing nut back there. The light's shining on it there. You take that off to get this bottom cowl to come further out. But anyway, I've got the door now, or that half of that case sitting down here. Now that exposes the heater core, and as you can see here, there's a bracket. That bracket came new with it. So I see some antifreeze on the bracket, so it must be leaking around the tank on the end. So anyway, I'm going to take those two screws out, and then it should pull right out. After getting this thing out, I just thought, like I say, this thing's only 6 months old, so I rigged it up to my some hoses to some pipe fittings, and basically it's leaking right in there. It leaks pretty good. I mean, it put out a lot on my floor. So I guess the good thing about some of these parts is they're cheap, but the bad thing about some of these parts are they're cheap. So anyway, that thing blows really good, shoots out lots of water. I figured maybe it was the tank that leaked, but actually it was back there where the coil solder in. So unfortunately, I got it out tonight. Called Advanced Auto. They don't have one in stock, but they say they can have it in the morning. So I'll have to continue this job in the morning. So there you have it. It lasted just a little over 6 months. So I hope the next one doesn't go that quick. It probably won't, so it'll be okay. Keep watching. We'll finish this job eventually. I went to AutoZone, Advanced Auto, sorry. Got me a new one. So I've got it here rigged up in a bucket of water. Just want to make sure, since the first one only lasted 6 months, this one appears to have 0 leaks. So I put about 8 pounds of pressure on it. Could take up to 15. So now I'm going to go ahead and stick it back in the car and get it back in there, put her back together. So wish me luck. Put the cover back on, the 2 screws. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and put there's the ends of it sticking out. I'm going to put anti-seize on those and then hook the hoses back up. Get that job done just in case before I put all the other stuff back together. So stay tuned. One thing, when I went to put this back together, the tube is like misaligned. So now what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to take these 2 screws back out of the housing and then loosen up the 2 screws on the bracket and get that thing to bend out a little bit. It's kind of just in a bad position. I can't get the... So the moral of this is get the hoses on before you put the cover back on. So it'll only take me a few seconds, but still, I shouldn't have had to do it. Get the door back on. Now I've put the programmer unit back in. One thing I noticed, it was easier to plug in the power. And I'm going to hook up the vacuum hoses before I bolt it on. And then also, I never noticed there's a foot back there in the very back. And you got to get that lined up. The programmer's got to line up in that slot, and then you put your 2 screws in. So don't forget that. But put it together before you bolt it up. It's easier. Got it all back together. I turned the key on, made sure the arm moved. I've screwed the bottom panel back on. Getting ready to put the glove box back in, and that should do it for me. So hopefully it'll work. So things back in. It seems to be working good. heater is running and just warming it up, checking for leaks. So, sorry for the bad video of being dark. But anyway, that was my second attempt to put this baby together. So thanks for watching. Maybe it'll help you.